Have you ever watched paramedics walk away from someone bleeding out on the street? I was grabbing coffee downtown when I heard the screaming. A man collapsed on the sidewalk outside the Wells Fargo, blood spreading across the concrete from what looked like a stab wound in his side. People were already surrounding him, phones out, someone pressing a jacket against the wound while others yelled for help. The guy was conscious, gasping, his white shirt turning crimson. I called 911 but could already hear sirens approaching. The ambulance pulled up within 3 minutes, and I felt this wave of relief because help was here. 2 paramedics jumped out, grabbed their bags, and rushed over. But then something weird happened. The lead paramedic knelt down and looked at the victim's face, just looked at him for maybe 5 seconds. Then he turned to his partner, a woman with red hair, and they made eye contact. No words, just this look. And then the guy stood up and started walking back to the ambulance. The woman followed. "What the hell are you doing?" Some lady in a business suit screamed. "He's dying. Help him." The paramedic didn't even turn around. "We can't touch him. Call the FBI." Then they both got back in the ambulance and just sat there with the engine running. The crowd went absolutely insane. People were recording, screaming about lawsuits, threatening to drag the paramedics out of the ambulance themselves. Someone yelled that they were getting their badge numbers. Another guy, built like a linebacker, actually tried to open the ambulance door, and the paramedic locked it from inside. The bleeding man was still conscious, still gasping, and now there was this massive pool of blood spreading around him. A nurse who'd been walking by dropped to her knees and tried to apply pressure to the wound, but the guy grabbed her wrist with surprising strength and shook his head. "Don't," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "Please don't touch me. Just wait." The nurse looked confused but backed away, her hands shaking. I remember thinking this had to be some kind of nightmare or prank show because nothing about this made sense. Paramedics don't just abandon dying people. That's literally the opposite of their entire job. But they sat in that ambulance for 8 full minutes while the victim bled out on the sidewalk and the crowd got angrier and angrier. Police showed up and tried to calm everyone down, but even they looked confused about why the paramedics weren't helping. Then 3 black SUVs came screaming around the corner with no sirens, just speed. They blocked off the entire intersection, and 8 people in full hazmat suits got out. Not medical hazmat, military-grade stuff that looked like something from a bioweapon facility. The crowd started backing up fast because whatever this was, it had just gotten a lot more serious. One of the hazmat team knelt next to the bleeding man with some kind of scanner, waving it over his body while the others set up a containment perimeter with plastic barriers. The man on the ground was barely conscious now, his skin pale and sweaty. The hazmat team leader signaled to his crew, and they brought out this specialized stretcher, the kind with built-in isolation chambers. They lifted the victim without actually touching him directly, using these long-handled tools, and sealed him inside the chamber. The whole operation took maybe 6 minutes, and they were incredibly careful about every movement. Nobody's hands ever made direct contact with his skin or blood. Then they loaded him into one of the SUVs and disappeared, leaving behind a decontamination crew to clean the sidewalk with chemicals. One of the paramedics finally got out of the ambulance after the hazmat team left. A reporter who'd shown up was demanding answers, microphone in his face, asking why they refused to help a dying man. The paramedic looked exhausted and angry, but also relieved. "That man has a tattoo on his left shoulder blade," he said quietly. 3 black diamonds in a triangle formation. "It's a classified marking that means his blood is contaminated with a contact toxin. If we touched him, if that nurse had kept applying pressure, if anyone here had gotten his blood on their skin, they'd be dead within 20 minutes. There's no antidote." The crowd went silent. The tattoo is used for undercover federal agents working in situations where capture means torture. If they're compromised, they trigger a medical emergency, and anyone who tries to help them dies. It's designed to eliminate captors, interrogators, anyone who might try to use them for information. The stabbing was his signal that his cover was blown and he needed extraction. The reporter looked sick. "So you just let him bleed out?" The paramedic shook his head. "We followed protocol exactly. That man is alive because we recognized the marking and called the right people. If we'd tried to be heroes, we'd have contaminated this entire block." I went home and couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks. I looked up everything I could find about undercover operations and classified medical protocols, but of course there's nothing official, just conspiracy theories and deleted forum posts. But I kept remembering the way that man grabbed the nurse's wrist and told her not to touch him. He was trying to save her life while his own blood was draining onto the pavement. 3 months later, I saw the lead paramedic at a different coffee shop. I almost didn't recognize him without the uniform. I asked if the guy made it, if he survived. The paramedic stared at his coffee for a long time before answering. "He's back in the field. Different face, different name. And there are 36 other agents with the same tattoo working in this city right now. Pray you never see one of them collapse on a sidewalk, because if you try to help, you won't make it home."